What happens when the people who are supposed to protect you become the ones who betray you? What happens when a dream given by God becomes the very reason your life is torn apart? This is the story of Joseph, not a king, not a prophet at first, but a son, a brother, and above all, a dreamer. This is the story of Joseph. Joseph was the son of Jacob, born in his father's old age, and from the beginning it was clear that Joseph was different. Jacob loved him more than his other sons, not because Joseph had earned it, but because his birth carried deep personal meaning, and that love, though sincere, was displayed openly, carelessly, in a way that planted quiet resentment inside the hearts of his brothers. Jacob made Joseph a richly ornamented robe, a garment that set him apart, a visible sign that Joseph held a special place in his father's heart. Every time Joseph wore it, it reminded his brothers of what they already felt, that they were seen as lesser, that Joseph stood above them, not by strength or labor, but by favor. And resentment, once planted, does not stay small. Joseph was still young when God began to speak to him through dreams, dreams vivid and symbolic, dreams that felt too real to ignore. In one dream, Joseph and his brothers were binding sheaves of grain in the field, when suddenly Joseph's sheaf rose and stood upright, while the sheaves of his brothers gathered around and bowed to it. Joseph told the dream to his brothers, and when he finished speaking, the atmosphere shifted.
Do you intend to reign over us? Will you actually rule us?
Their hatred deepened. Then Joseph had another dream, one even greater. The sun, the moon, and 11 stars were bowing down to him. And when he told this dream to his father and brothers, even Jacob rebuked him, asking,
Will your mother and I and your brothers actually come and bow down to the ground before you?
Joseph did not yet understand the weight of what he carried. He spoke with the innocence of youth, unaware that truth spoken without wisdom can still wound. His brothers, however, did understand one thing clearly. Joseph's presence threatened their sense of identity, their place in the family, and their future. Time passed, and one day Jacob sent Joseph to check on his brothers who were tending the flocks near Shechem. Joseph obeyed, leaving the safety of home, wearing the robe that marked him as favored, walking toward men whose hearts had already turned against him. When his brothers saw him coming from a distance, they recognized him before he reached them, and before he spoke a word, they conspired against him.
Here comes that dreamer. Come now. Let's kill him and throw him into one of these cisterns. Then we'll say a wild animal devoured him, and we'll see what becomes of his dreams.
This was not a sudden outburst. This was hatred that had matured. Reuben, the oldest, intervened, not to protect Joseph out of love, but to avoid bloodshed. He convinced them not to kill him, suggesting they throw Joseph into a cistern instead, planning to rescue him later and return him to their father. When Joseph arrived, confused and unsuspecting, they surrounded him, stripped him of his robe, the symbol of his father's favor, and threw him into an empty cistern, a deep pit with no water, no escape, and no explanation. Joseph cried out, but no one answered. As he sat in darkness, his brothers sat down to eat, unmoved, detached, their hearts hardened enough to ignore his pleas. And while they ate, they saw a caravan of Ishmaelite traders approaching, traveling from Gilead to Egypt. Judah spoke up.
What will we gain if we kill our brother and cover up his blood? Come, let's sell him to the Ishmaelites and not lay our hands on him. After all, he is our brother, our own flesh and blood.
And they agreed. Joseph was pulled from the cistern, not rescued, but sold, exchanged for 20 shekels of silver, treated not as a son, not as a brother, but as property. And just like that, the dreams God had given him seemed to vanish into the dust of the road to Egypt. The brothers dipped Joseph's robe in the blood of a goat and sent it to their father, allowing Jacob to believe the worst. Jacob recognized the robe and collapsed in despair.
My son has been devoured. I will continue to mourn until I join him in the grave.
And while Jacob mourned, Joseph was carried farther and farther away. In Egypt, Joseph was sold again, this time to Potiphar, an officer of Pharaoh, the captain of the guard. Joseph entered his house as a slave, stripped of family, identity, and future. Yet Scripture quietly tells us something crucial. The Lord was with Joseph. Even in slavery, Joseph worked faithfully, and everything he touched prospered. Potiphar noticed, and soon Joseph was placed over the entire household, trusted with everything except Potiphar's own wife. But temptation found Joseph where favor had lifted him. Day after day, Potiphar's wife tried to seduce him, urging him to lie with her, and Joseph refused, not out of fear, but conviction.
How could I do such a wicked thing and sin against God?
One day, when no one else was around, she grabbed him by his garment, and Joseph fled, leaving the cloak in her hands. Enraged and humiliated, she twisted the story, accusing Joseph of assault. Potiphar believed her. Joseph was thrown into prison. Again, another fall, another injustice, another door slammed shut. But again, Scripture repeats the same quiet truth. The Lord was with Joseph. Even in prison, Joseph found favor, responsibility, and trust until the warden placed him in charge of the other prisoners. Time passed, and two of Pharaoh's officials, the cupbearer and the baker, were imprisoned, each troubled by dreams they could not understand. Joseph interpreted them not by his own wisdom, but by God's, predicting restoration for one and death for the other. And everything happened exactly as Joseph said. Before the cupbearer was released, Joseph asked him one thing.
Remember me, that's all I ask.
But the cupbearer forgot. 2 more years passed. Joseph waited. Then Pharaoh dreamed. Dreams of cows rising from the Nile, fat and healthy, devoured by cows thin and gaunt. Dreams of full heads of grain swallowed by thin ones. Pharaoh was disturbed, and none of his magicians could explain the meaning. That is when the cupbearer remembered. Pharaoh sent for Joseph. In a moment, Joseph was brought from prison, shaved, changed, and stood before the most powerful man in Egypt. Pharaoh told him the dreams, and Joseph answered carefully.
I cannot do it, but God will give Pharaoh the answer he desires.
Joseph explained the meaning. 7 years of abundance were coming, followed by 7 years of severe famine, and he advised Pharaoh to prepare, to store grain, to appoint a wise administrator. Pharaoh recognized God's hand. He appointed Joseph second in command over all Egypt. In a single day, Joseph went from prisoner to ruler. The famine came, and it reached far beyond Egypt. Back in Canaan, Jacob sent Joseph's brothers to Egypt to buy grain. And when the brothers stood before the governor of Egypt, they bowed low, faces to the ground, not knowing the man before them was Joseph. But Joseph knew them instantly. The years fell away. The pit, the road to Egypt, the prison, the dreams. He tested them, not out of vengeance, but to see if their hearts had changed. And when Judah stepped forward, offering himself in place of Benjamin, Joseph finally saw what he needed to see, and then he broke.
I am Joseph. Is my father still alive?
Fear filled the room, guilt, Silence. But Joseph spoke again, reframing everything they thought they knew.
You meant evil against me, but God meant it for good, to save many lives.
Joseph sent for his father. When Jacob heard that his son was alive, his spirit revived, and God reassured him on the journey to Egypt, promising that this descent was not abandonment, but part of a greater plan. Joseph embraced his father. The family was settled. They were preserved through the famine. Joseph's story reminds us that betrayal does not cancel God's purposes, that waiting is never wasted, and that what looks like loss can be the very road God uses to bring salvation. The pit did not end the dream. The prison did not silence God, and what was meant for harm became the means by which a nation survived. Because when God gives a promise, even time, suffering, and betrayal must eventually bow.